During a WWE-produced documentary DVD about Vince McMahon in 2005, Stephanie McMahon made a shocking revelation to the world about her father. She was discussing some of the most outrageous ideas that her father pitched her to do on WWE TV. The ideas including putting hers and Triple H's wedding on pay-per-view, and even live casting the birth of their first child. The interview featured Triple H and Stephanie casually discussing these storylines, when things all of a sudden got really weird. Stephanie spoke about a storyline idea that Vince gave her, during which Vince McMahon would be revealed as the father of Stephanie McMahon's child. You are hearing that correctly. Vince McMahon once pitched a storyline of incest involving his own daughter. This revelation was used as the inspiration for this video, where I will discuss in detail some of Vince McMahon's most out of left field, just wild and wacky storylines that did not make air, thankfully. If only Katie Vick was on this list. If only. Nonetheless, I present to you Vince McMahon's most insane storylines. First off, let's talk about the aforementioned incest storyline that was the brainchild of one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. The clip of Stephanie telling this story is out there on the internet for all of you to watch. It is mind-blowing to me how she said that her father pitched the idea of him being the father of her own baby with such poise. I'm sure she is used to his ridiculous ideas, as she stated that this was the second time she had to say no to him for an angle. Bruce Pritchard talked about this as well during his podcast, Something to Wrestle. He stated that he had never heard of such a thing come directly from Vince's mouth, but he did state that he could envision Vince saying that as a joke. The way Stephanie told it, it did not sound like Vince was joking. I can only imagine a family dinner at the McMahon household. Picture it. You have Vince McMahon, Linda, Stephanie, Shane, Triple H, the grandkids running around, and Grandma and Grandpa are there to top it all off. Stephanie tells Vince, "Hey, pass the bread." And Vince's response is, "Damn it, pal, I want to be the father of your baby for ratings." I would be dumbfounded at the sight of this. Honestly, that creative meeting would make for must-see TV. Just imagine a segment on Raw of the McMahon family in a creative meeting discussing an incest angle. Oh boy. Shane McMahon was dragged into this whole mess, as it was later revealed that Vince pitched the idea for him to be the father after Stephanie shot down the original idea. Vince loved the idea so much so that he tried to pitch two different versions of it. Shane McMahon confirmed the rumor of his involvement during a radio interview where the host just asked him directly about it. To which Shane replied, "It wouldn't be so bad, my sister's hot." He said that in a sarcastic, joking manner. Nevertheless, what a response. It's safe to say that if this angle had made air, it would have given Katie Vick a run for its money as the singular worst storyline in the history of pro wrestling. The next storyline very well could have put its participant in harm's way outside of the wrestling ring, as it involved the Japanese mafia, or the Yakuza, not directly, but as a reference to them. The Yakuza are not one to play with, as there have been reports of members smacking around Antonio Inoki backstage, and Inoki thanking them for the honor of being smacked. Another urban legend is that of Chris Jericho knocking over a potted plant that belonged to a member. Jericho allegedly ran away from the premises immediately. Perhaps the scariest tale of them all is when Sabu was in legitimate fear for his life and had to be hidden for a number of days after striking a member that was sitting ringside during an NJPW show. The storyline in question here is that of Tajiri serving as a Yakuza boss with two members that do what he says and help him win matches. Part of this storyline did make air for a very short period of time, when Jimmy Wang Yang and Ryan Sakota appeared dressed in all black and donning black masks. They assisted Tajiri to win the Cruiserweight Championship. The group was given the name Kaiodai, which is translated to brothers, in reference to those that are in charge of the Yakuza. Tajiri went to Vince McMahon personally and requested that the angle be dropped out of the blue before it could gain any sort of traction. The reason being that Tajiri lived in Japan and was afraid of any potential repercussions that would follow suit if the Yakuza caught wind of the WWE's portrayal of them. Vince McMahon did not want to cross the dangerous Yakuza, so he obliged, also giving the angle the Benoit treatment with almost any trace of it being scrubbed from the internet. A headline sometime in 2003 of an active WWE superstar being got by the Japanese mafia would have certainly rattled the airwaves if things had got to the most extreme end of the spectrum. WWE did the right thing by nixing this angle, as it ultimately would have likely led to nothing of significance. Melina Perez is remembered as the beautiful Latin bombshell that accompanied Johnny Nitro to the ring and wowed fans with an iconic entrance. Perhaps her most famous on-screen storyline involved the Animal, Dave Batista. They shared an on-screen moment of intimacy when Melina seduced Batista to soften him up before a match with her man. The segment would then somehow lead to Mark Henry being rewarded with a World Heavyweight title match. After the Too Steamy segment, Melina would then accuse Batista of forcing himself on her because Batista treated her like a ring rat when they were done doing the deed. The parts of this storyline that did air on WWE TV are bad enough for the children to watch at home. You know, cheating, sexual assault, etc. Let's throw in the wrinkle to the storyline that was supposed to be the payoff, but thankfully never made the air. The original plot of the storyline would have saw the reveal of Melina to be a transsexual, having recently transitioned from being a man. Considering that Melina made a name for herself by flashing her, we'll say, undergarments, it would have made for a tough sale to convince millions of people that she was a man after all. This storyline would have been very distasteful and have made a mockery of Melina while being an embarrassment to WWE's big star in Batista. In the days leading up to the reveal of Melina being transgender, Stephanie McMahon stepped in and nixed the idea, stating that it would be bad for Melina's image and the image of women's wrestling overall. Thank you, Stephanie. The final storyline that I'd like to present to you is not one that came directly from the brain of Vince McMahon. I know this is about Vince McMahon's idea, but this storyline, it was too wild even for Vince, as the chairman turned it down immediately after it was pitched to him. Heidenreich, for those of you who don't remember, was a member of the new Legion of Doom with Animal, and was infamously cast in a segment that saw him assault Michael Cole in a not-so-nice way in the locker room. He was a rising star that possessed every natural attribute that McMahon would look for in a top star: jacked, tall, athletic, and blonde. Dan Madigan is a former WWE writer, best known for writing the script for the movie See No Evil, starring the mayor, Glenn Jacobs. Madigan was assigned to come up with a gimmick for Heidenreich, who had yet to make his television debut, but instead was working with an awful gimmick in developmental, where he was controlled by a doll. Madigan was in a legitimate pitch meeting with the chairman and CEO of WWE along with several other powerful people within WWE. Presumably, Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn, Stephanie McMahon, just to name a few. Madigan proudly stood up and pitched the idea of a character named Baron von Bava, a Nazi World War II soldier that the Nazis froze to keep him alive so he could spread the Nazi message for future generations. Von Bava would have been discovered and thawed out by Paul Heyman, a man of Jewish descent whose mother actually survived the Holocaust. After being frozen for nearly 100 years, Von Bava would have no clue what year he is in, and would have worn gear donning swastikas. When his pitch completed, Madigan gleefully sat down in his chair as he awaited praise from the chairman for this awful idea. McMahon allegedly stared at him, said nothing, grabbed his jacket, and left the building altogether. Unbelievable. The man who wanted to be the father of his own daughter's child, and the producer of the Katie Vick segment, was silenced by a Nazi gimmick. Rightfully so, I mean. The idea was terrible and would have no doubt caused backlash and a public outrage, unlike anything else WWE has experienced. Madigan was fired from WWE shortly thereafter. Well, there you have it. Those are some of WWE's most insane storyline ideas. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next video. Peace.